side of the poor, a pacifist who loved boxing and bullfighting, a factory operator with an organic garden. This man stood at the center of a series of unlikely Venn diagrams. Gentleman farmer, politico-industrialist, athlete, aesthete. He lived a hyphenated life, determined to keep people guessing. Jocund, said one of his license plates, and as soon as they figured that one out, he changed it to Brillig. You need to look it up? He'd be happy to loan you a dictionary. This man wanted to be an engineer and a humanist, an introvert and a gatherer of the clan, the one who fought the marlin into the boat and the one who released it back into the wild. Pity the person who tried to fence him in. He grew up in an age when a city boy could check a stuffed bird out of the public library to study at home. Idealizing nature, this Navy vet somehow convinced the love of his life, then a mother of 5 still breastfeeding their latest, to move to the end of 1 3/4 miles of dirt road, ford a creek, and set up a house in a sharecropper's cottage with no phone. His Park Avenue family thought he was nuts. And several times he and Bunny almost threw in the trowel. His habit was to find a way to make it work. No matter what life hitted him over the net, he smacked it back with seemingly effortless grace. Keep your eye on the ball, he advised, gamely retrieving every shot and deftly placing his just off the line with murderous consistency that wore his opponents down. Chauffeured to middle school in the back of a Rolls Royce, he felt a Catholic obligation to serve others. If drafted, I will not run, he used to joke. If elected, I will not serve. In truth, he made a better legislator than a politician. He didn't like being in the same room with people of low intellectual horsepower. He was suspect of name-droppers and glad-handers and gossip. He was easily bored by small talk. But he putt-putted his red VW Bug along the rural roads in search of handshakes and votes because it gave him the chance to legislate our future. He reveled in being ahead of the curve. He started jogging for exercise in the 1950s. Everyone talks about the wisdom of farm-to-table eating today. 30 years ago, nothing made him happier than putting together an entire meal from flank steak to beef steaks, green beans to butter, corn to crabapple jelly, without leaving the farm. Decriminalizing marijuana, he was for it in 1976. Healthcare for all, that was his cause in the 80s. Long before it was a craze, he believed in what was then called health food. He drank foul-smelling brewer's yeast in his morning smoothie, cooked tofu, tempeh, whole grains, and kale, grew sprouts in a jar, baked whole wheat bread, cultured yogurt, and brushed his teeth with a poultice of salt and baking soda. To the delight of anyone under 5, he stood on his head to clear his sinuses. When he started fasting one day a week, his sons joked that his desk drawer at the factory must contain a secret stash of jelly donuts. He didn't like to tell the next generation what to do with their lives. That would have begged an intimacy that he wasn't wired to handle. But he set such a fine, quiet example to follow. He gravitated to the ones in need, kids caught in the justice system, the undocumented, the unregistered, those lacking access to college, people with AIDS. Keeping watch, his sons learned about service. They saw how to disagree lovingly with their spouses and bear a burden without complaint. They learned how to take hard risks like he had. He taught them how to father their kids. He believed that knowledge once won was meant to be shared, so his boys and grandchildren learned how to tie a clove hitch, locate Orion's belt, fry up a clam fritter, attract a colony of martins, replace a fan belt, shoot a rail, and mend a split infinitive. There was one right way to row a dory, lay a fire, suckle an orphaned lamb, wash a wineglass. It was an exultation of larks, but a murder of crows, and he wanted you to know it. Relentlessly curious, he formed independent opinions and doggedly argued his points. He wrote letters to the Daily Progress advocating for gun control, higher gas taxes, and limits on sprawl. But at his core, he believed in two things: the teachings of his church and the true north of his bunny. Theirs was a union for the record books. At the Pope's behest, they went forth and multiplied. And many hearts beat in this room. Thanks. He was born genetically prone to the Irish curse of depression, though he tried to marry his way out of it. And he hewed to a pretty narrow emotional range most of his life. In his last few years, though, he made up for all those decades of stoicism with incredible kindness to his caregivers and tears that rolled down with abandon. Having a bunny day? Steve would ask, handing him a dry tissue. Reunited with his love at last, this man, this unclassifiable, hyphenated Renaissance man, was my father, Jim Murray. Like my brothers, I will be forever proud to be known as his son.